All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. And in this video, Terence Crawford is being called fool's gold ahead of his fight with Canelo Alvarez as people debate whether or not Bob Arum's statement is true about every fight Terence Crawford has been in losing money, and whether or not that would possibly affect a Canelo Alvarez fight. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and I am going to respond to a statement that was made by one of the best people in boxing, one of the best media people in up-and-coming media and people in boxing. Won't say the name, but very, very, very solid guy. We went back and I don't know if we went back and forth on Twitter, but we discussed on Twitter. I responded to something that was said about one of boxing's most, how can I say, notorious narratives that have been thrown around at boxing, at fighters, you know. And what a narrative is in this regard is something that people consistently say that is not true about a fighter. And in this case, there has been a statement that Bob Arum made about Terence Crawford, having said that he lost enough money on Terence Crawford to buy a mansion in Beverly Hills. And of course, a lot of people talk about the Israel Madmarov fight and how that lost tens of millions of dollars. So there is, for better or worse, that label that's on Terence Crawford. However, what was stated was that, hey, Terence Crawford really didn't lose that much money for Bob Arum because Bob Arum is on a budget. And since Bob Arum's on a budget, he could very well pay Terence Crawford more money than his fight generates. But at the end of the day, he didn't lose money because Bob Arum was on a budget. Now, I think that is a fair statement. However, I think it overlooks something very key. Now, before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Greatly appreciate it. And hey, if you feel like supporting the channel and the super thanks that's below, a little dollar sign down by where you can leave a comment, that would be greatly appreciated too. But let's get to this. Look, I know that sometimes for people to listen to me on a regular basis that it seems as if I may have a prejudice against one fighter or another fighter. I promise you that I really don't, with the exception of Dillian White, the heavyweight over there in the UK. He used to really get on my nerves. But other than that, really, I support pretty much all the fighters that are out there. Terence Crawford fans get upset with me because I tell people things that they may not want to hear. Now, in this instance, I have to say that the narrative around Terence Crawford losing money in fights is probably well-founded. Now, the explanation that was given for why Bob Arum didn't lose money has got a little bit of a problem, because if you look at it and you say, okay, the budget for ESPN that they give Top Rank, let's just say it's $50 million in a year, right? And say Bud Crawford fight generates, winds up losing $500,000, right? So he puts on a fight that's $500,000 in the hole, or 500. Say it's $500,000 in the hole. You make up for the fact that you have a $50 million budget, right? That you're going to wind up making. Say they make 15% profit on that, right? So they wind up with like $7.5 million profit. So at the end of the day, Bob Arum made $7 million at the end of the year, even though the fight with Terence Crawford lost money. Well, yeah, that is a good reason for Bob Arum to stay in business with ESPN, because ESPN is giving him a healthy budget. But that doesn't mean that Bob Arum doesn't scrutinize line items in his, in his expenses and say, okay, well, we made $7 million in profit. Why didn't we make 8? Oh, we didn't make 8 because Terence Crawford loses us money. He's more expensive than we're able to make in a fight with him. Now, Terence Crawford does get, and I have to say that this is a very good point that was made, is that Terence Crawford, when he was on ESPN, had better ratings than other people did. But again, you look at it and you say, okay, they had better ratings. That's why he makes more money. That's why he is that's why he's headlining these cards on ESPN. But that doesn't mean that his fights aren't losing money, because he's the best and he may be the biggest name fighter that they have on the network, because the other guys aren't making the money that Terence Crawford is making. If you listen to what Teofimo Lopez said he made $1 million one time so far. Shakur Stevenson, I think, is making over $1 million, but none of those guys are getting the $5-6 million per fight that Terence Crawford was getting. Now, I have to say in defense of Terence Crawford that, hey, man, if you can get that type of job, hey, man, get that type of job, because we can't argue at all whether or not Madmarov fight lost money with Terence Crawford and Turki Al-Sheikh, because that was all over the news that it lost over $10 million putting on that event. Now, that could have been because Turki Al-Sheikh decided to pay who knows how much money to Eminem for performing. But at the end of the day, look, it's something that's fair to say. But on the other hand, look, the guy is operating under a budget. He tends to work with people that have budgets to pay him outright for the services. And if they decide that they want to pay the money and they lose money in that endeavor, that's kind of on the other guy. But that doesn't mean that people are not going to still say, look, man, you got to really question Terence Crawford's popularity considering the fact that he's losing money. Now, what does that have to do with Canelo Alvarez? If Terence Crawford fights Canelo Alvarez, that fight is going to be profitable. Maybe. But maybe that will be profitable. And the reason that I say that is, where's the fight going to be? Is it going to be in the United States? And at the end of the day, are you really going to pay Terence Crawford $100 million and Canelo Alvarez $150 million? If you're paying $250 million in cost and just in purses, yeah, of course it's going to lose a lot of money. But apparently the person that is doing doesn't mind losing other people's money. But at the end of the day, that type of stuff is not going to float in the long term. I'm sorry. And it's very rare that you find somebody in the situation that Terence Crawford is in, where Terence Crawford could have a whole career but never really establish himself as, a big revenue producer for promoters, but at the same time, man, have a very, very lucrative career and might wind up being named one of the top 10 fighters of all time, until he's retired for 5 years and then people forget, right? Like they do to everybody else that they put into this top 5 all-time fighters, But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.